So Marjorie Taylor Greene sent out an email to her voters bragging about how that she had secured federal funding, that she had secured $3.8 million to extend a Floyd County Airport's runway in her district. Now, a local paper in Rome, Georgia, ran the story and ran her statement, but what they failed to point out is that Marjorie Taylor Greene actually voted against this bill. So she's out there now trying to take credit for something that she herself voted against. Now, here's what happens whenever Republicans get caught in moments like this. She's going to claim that there were certain earmarks in the bill that she didn't agree with, and that's why she voted against it. What her voters don't understand is that's not how the government works. Earmarks are not voted on individually, just the bill. So Marjorie Taylor Greene voted against this bill, and now she's out there trying to take credit for this bill because when people sees that happening and sees that the airport is being extended, then it's going to look as though, hey, Joe Biden done something good for us. And she can't have that. She can't let her voters think that. So she has to try to trick them into believing that she's the one that got this through, when in fact she voted against it. But when I read this story, I was immediately reminded of a story from when I was growing up. And like I've said in videos in the past, my family has always talked politics and religion. I mean, it's the things that people says you should never talk about. My family missed that memo. And from the time I was a little kid, we've always talked it. I had an uncle named Brad who was one of my heroes, and he taught me more about politics than anyone. And to be honest with you, had he lived and had he been able to sit here in this chair and do what I do, he would have blew me completely away. I wouldn't have this gig with Midas Touch. I wouldn't have this channel. He would own it, because I've never saw anybody who could break down politics and debate it and just absolutely school people the way that he could. And he would absolutely school me, and he did one time. Back when I was a teenager, Lamar Alexander here in Tennessee was doing a campaign where he was going across Tennessee in a flannel shirt and a pair of jeans. And he was talking about morals and values and talking about how he stood for the veterans and he stood for the workers and he stood for the blue-collar people. And it looked pretty appealing. Now, I knew that my uncle was a Democrat, but I said to myself, my grandpa was a Republican, and which was his dad. I thought, his own dad was a Republican, and this guy is saying all these things that make so much sense, and he stands up for people like us, and look, he's even dressed like us, so he must be one of us. So I go to my uncle and I'm like, hey, I know you're a Democrat, but have you really been watching Lamar Alexander? Have you really been watching what he's saying and listening to what he's saying? Because he's for veterans and he's for workers and he's for all of us. And he's wearing a flannel shirt and he's got on a pair of jeans. And, he's one of us, Brad. What do you think about that? And he looked at me and he said, well, do you realize that the only time he ever put on that flannel shirt and that pair of jeans was for those photo ops? That's not how he actually dresses, and that's not what he actually believes. And if you actually take a look at his voting record, you'll see that everything he's out there preaching, he actually voted against it. So he just pulls up Lamar Alexander's voting record and starts pointing at it. Look, here's how many times he voted to cut Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. Here's how many times he voted against veterans. Here's how many times he voted against workers. Here's how many times he voted against jobs. And there it was. There was his voting record right in front of my face, and I'm going, damn, I feel kind of duped. And I was a teenager, but I remember thinking, I feel really duped by this dude, because I was starting to buy into it. I was starting to believe it. I was starting to think he was one of us. But it turns out he was using our culture and using the way we dress and using the way we talk as a weapon against us. He was actually using it to vote against us. And he was actually tricking people like me into voting against my own interest. Of course, I wasn't old enough to vote yet. But had my Uncle Brad not took me on that detour and showed me what was really going on, then I might have looked at it a completely different way. What you have to realize is that these people comes out here and will take credit for all these things doesn't mean that they were for it or voted for it. They'll try to take the credit for it when it's over. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying her damnedest to dupe her voters, and they're uninformed and they don't realize how the system works, and they think that she's one of them. And she's adopted this MAGA brand of politics. She's adopted the Donald Trump, I'm sure they love it when they see her tell a reporter to fuck off. I'm sure they love her and go, yeah, Marge, give them hell. But there's no substance to Marjorie Taylor Greene. All this rhetoric that she has, there is no substance to that rhetoric. Wearing the red coat, wearing the red Make America Great Again hat, putting Laken Riley's name on her chest, that was all for political points. There's no substance there. She's not done anything for her voters, and she's not going to. She's only going to do what she's told. She's only going to be a voice for those people at the top that she's trying to make richer. And she's going to dupe people in Georgia into believing that she's on their side and she got these things done. And a lot of those people won't have an uncle like I did that's going to point to them and say, hey, look, I don't know if you know this or not, but she actually voted against these things. To the people in her district, I would say this. She might make you feel a lot of rage, and she may make you feel a lot of anger, and she may get you fired up, and she may make you feel like you're owning the libs. But ask yourself, how is that helping? How is owning the libs helping your life? How is it helping you pay your bills? How is it helping you feed your family? How's it helping you go to the doctor? How's it helping your elderly parents and grandparents? How's it helping them? That rhetoric might look cool on a t-shirt. That rhetoric might look cool on a bumper sticker. You may be able to get a new flag and fly it off your boat. But that's all it is. There's no substance to it. And like I said, it's a good thing that my uncle came along and pointed that out to me because, you know, it's easy to get sucked up in that. And here's the thing. I understand how people in my part of the world could get sucked into it. And the reason they do is because they are brought up to believe in God. They are brought up to believe in the working class and to believe in workers' rights and to believe in veterans, and they're raised up in a patriotic way. And then along comes these people that says, hey, that other side, they're trying to come for your God, and they're trying to come for your guns, and they're trying to come for your way of life. And that freaks people out in my part of the world, and they end up running out and voting for the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Or in my neck of the woods, they go out and vote for Tim Burchett, the dollar store Trump, you know. And they do so because that type of rhetoric fires them up. But if they ever looked into the voting records of these people, they would realize that they weren't on their side at all, that they were voting against them every step of the way, and they were just shining. It's like the old mule cart, you know, sticking the carrot out in front of the mule's nose. It's pretty much the same thing. I mean, she's holding Lake and Riley's name out in front of you, and you're chasing it, but she's not fixing the border. She doesn't have any interest in fixing it. She wants the problem to stick around. So the next time that one of your congressmen or women or senator comes out and says, look what I did for you, look into their voting record and see what they really did for you. And you'll find a lot of times that it's nothing more than a stage prop, and it's nothing more than them trying to take credit for something they didn't do themselves. So I'm not at all shocked that Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying to take credit for this, but we need to realize one thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene is all talk, and she's zero substance.